Biotechnology corporations are also trying to improve upon nature by modifying and engineering plants to their own specifications. With the advent of genetic modification, corn and other crops become resistant to herbicides and can be grown in larger quantities. The abundance advances the development of high fructose corn syrup used in a plethora of processed foods. However, our bodies are not equipped to process the profusion of corn, and the incidence of diabetes and obesity has risen accordingly. Pollen surmises, when you're engineering foods, you are pressing our evolutionary buttons. Additionally, engineered seed is patented and illegal to save. Farmer Rausch notes that when the prohibition against seed saving began, most farmers were just absolutely disgusted with the whole concept. The future of next year's crop resides in the seed. Without the ability to save it, farmers depend on the system rather than nature. By overtly working against nature for so long, we must now speculate on extreme consequences of our actions. Jindřišek addresses the possibility of our extinction in his article, Back to the Garden, New Visions of Post-Human Futures. He confirms, "We are told that our civilization only has a 50-50 chance of surviving the next century." Similarly, in The World Without Us, Alan Weisman predicts that without us, plants and animals would reclaim the planet. Biodiversity would return to the world and nature's power would prevail. Jindřišek asserts, in the face of humanity's overwhelming power over nature, current environmental thought asks us to reconsider our place in the world. However, this comment is based on the assumption that we have overcome the effect of our nature. As Weisman points out, our power over nature is perceived. We attempt to grossly accelerate chickens' growth rate and their legs break under their weight. We fight the problem of too many animals in too little space with antibiotics, and then we must fight the problem of antibiotic resistance. We may influence nature, even greater than any other species has, but without us the world would remain, and in fact flourish. From genetic engineering to assembly line slaughter, current scientific progress attempts dominion rather than harmonization. Janice Ray reminds us that our ancestors were humans in tandem with nature, no technology required, our fates intertwined. We need to rekindle that harmonious relationship. As long as we continue to work against nature, progress will continue to lead us to its degradation and to our own extinction. The support of such devastating systems prompts me to reiterate Kingsolver's question, "O America the Beautiful, where are our standards? Does the story of now tell of a people disassociated from nature? Does it end with our own destruction? And perhaps more importantly, how can we supplant this paradigm with one that is sustainable?" My current thesis research strives to answer that question. Industrial food systems exploit people and land, and they are not sustainable in the face of limited resources. Industrial agriculture promises food security, yet it perpetuates dependence upon mechanized systems. Southern agrarians have always been concerned about the tendency toward a material versus pastoral society. In the introduction to I'll Take My Stand, The South and the Agrarian Tradition, the 12 Southerners of the original 1930s agrarians proclaim that the distinction of their principles is contained in the phrase agrarian versus industrial. Their ideals are founded in the schism, and the importance of land is inherent in the term by which they define themselves. The development of numerous and varied local food movements reiterates the schism between agrarian and industrial, and they simultaneously demonstrate a preference for locally and responsibly grown food. By revisiting the Southern agrarian principles and redefining them in current contexts, contemporary food movements may gain the momentum needed to subvert industrial agriculture. By referring to the agrarian ideals of community and land stewardship, I hope to uncover the key to a food revolution. I believe that permaculture is a practical application of agrarian ideals. In Permaculture, a Designer's Manual, Bill Mollison defines permaculture. Permanent agriculture is the conscious design and maintenance of agriculturally productive ecosystems, which have the diversity, stability, and resilience of natural ecosystems. It is the harmonious integration of landscape and people, providing their food, energy, shelter, and other material and non-material needs in a sustainable way. Without permanent agriculture, there is no possibility of a stable social order. The philosophy behind permaculture is one of working with, rather than against, nature. Mollison lists 12 tenets of permaculture requisite of the directive and necessary to sustainable ecological design. Similarly, in The Art of the Commonplace, Wendell Berry delineates 14 precepts of the agrarian standard. Although these texts are written in different times, countries, and contexts, they are remarkably similar. For example, Mollison states, each element performs multiple functions, whereas Berry notes, a good solution has wide margins and solves more than one problem. Mollison refers to recognizing limits as relative to location, and Berry conveys that we must accept given limits. Mollison reveals the problem is the solution, and Berry demonstrates the truth of this statement with an anecdote of a farmer whose conventional farming failure forced him to develop a small, successful operation that will reap long-term profits. Both Mollison and Berry focus on adhering to and imitating natural patterns to achieve sustainable agriculture that can adapt across cultures and over time. While industrial agriculture has a global scope, local food movements focus on starting in one's own backyard. Mollison cautions to make small mistakes, and Berry states, think small. Southern agrarianism and permaculture champion land stewardship and convey that the first step toward changing the system is one's own. Taking responsibility for the first step toward social change may seem daunting. Therefore, we must consider the power of the seed. By comparing its magnitude to the size of seed, nature's potency is illuminated. We have, in ourselves and in our communities, the capacity for change. Whether or not we have a place in the world's future is up to our ability to cooperate rather than to compete. Ray reminds us, there is no despair in a seed. There's only life, waiting for the right conditions, sun and water, warmth and soil, to be set free.